Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's kick off today's story with the tale of how one little old lady managed to single-handedly shut down an entire car wash. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. I thought I was in line for a car wash. Turns out I was in line for a lesson in entitlement and patience. Earlier today, I swung by the local Shell station to fill up my car and grab a car wash. Pretty standard stop, but I've done it plenty of times before. This particular station is set up a bit awkwardly. The car wash entrance is around the back of the building, and once you're at the pumps, you can't actually see the car wash line or who might be blocking it. No big deal usually, but something you just get used to. So I fill up my tank, grab the receipt with the wash code, and drive around the building to the car wash entrance, only to be met with a scene straight out of a sitcom. There's a blue Lexus parked directly in front of the car wash, completely blocking the entrance. No one inside, just abandoned there like it's a perfectly acceptable place to park a luxury vehicle. There's a guy in a sedan already waiting in line ahead of me, just sitting there, looking mildly annoyed. I pull in behind him, and after a minute or so, we start giving each other that universal, "What the hell?" look through our mirrors. Clearly, neither of us can go anywhere until the Lexus moves, and it doesn't look like that's happening anytime soon. I try calling the number listed on the station sign, hoping maybe a staff member could make an announcement or something. No luck, it just rings and rings. Meanwhile, the guy ahead of me finally decides he's had enough. He throws his car into park, gets out, and marches into the station. A couple minutes go by, and I'm watching the door like it's the climax of a courtroom drama. Finally, out he comes with a Shell employee in tow, and behind them, a little old lady, moving at the speed of glacial erosion. She's holding a cup of gas station coffee in one hand and a cane, barely being used by the way, in the other. She's walking with the leisurely pace of someone taking a Sunday stroll through a botanical garden, completely unbothered by the line of cars she's trapped behind her Lexus. I watch as she ambles up to her car, opens the door, sits down with maximum effort, then realizes she hasn't entered her code yet. So she gets out, leans on her cane dramatically, hobbles over to the keypad, squints at it for a solid 30 seconds, enters the code at what might be the slowest human speed possible, and then slowly makes her way back into the Lexus. The entire process, just from her emerging from the station to finally pulling forward into the wash, took about 5 minutes. Add that to the time we'd already been sitting there, and it was easily 10 extra minutes wasted. Now look, I get it. She's older, she might have mobility issues, I'm not heartless. But what really ticked me off was that she clearly had gone inside first to get her coffee and code, and then came out and blocked the entrance while she sipped her drink and went about her slow-motion errand. All she had to do was park in a regular spot out front, get her stuff, and then drive around when she was ready. But no, instead she chose to treat the car wash entrance like her personal valet lane, apparently unaware or unconcerned that two people were stuck waiting behind her the entire time. And yeah, I know, 10 minutes isn't the end of the world. I wasn't late for a wedding or anything, but when you're trying to squeeze errands into your day, those minutes count. It's not just the delay, it's the entitled energy of it all. Like the rules or the flow of traffic don't apply because she's got a Lexus and a latte. By the time I finally got into the wash, I was in that annoyed but helpless headspace where you're just muttering under your breath and trying to let it go, but your brain keeps circling back to how unnecessary the whole thing was. The guy who went in to get her out gave me a little wave as he pulled away, and I gave him a thumbs up in return. Solidarity, my dude. As for the old lady, she drove off without so much as a glance back. Just out of the wash and into the sunset, leaving behind two mildly frustrated strangers and a whole lot of secondhand steam rising off the pavement. Some people never appreciate that the population of the whole of the universe is composed entirely of others. Some people never appreciate that the population of the whole of the universe is composed entirely of others. Sometimes I wish we had designated monster truck drivers who we can call specifically for situations like that. And our second story. Karen stole a first aid course spot from my mom. Now she's pretending it never happened. My mother works as an administrative assistant in a public state pharmacy that provides home care assistance. Her job is purely administrative, helping out the actual pharmacist to keep things in order. Karen is her senior, only a name, as she has the same position but's been working there longer than my mother, who just got in less than 6 months ago and is still in her probation period. Her job sometimes offers small courses for employees to earn certificates during working hours. Last week, there was a first aid course going on. In her whole sector, absolutely no one wanted to do it except for my mother, who loves those types of things, and she signed up for it as soon as the email came out. She got into the first group, which was supposed to take the class on November 14th. The second group would be on November 21st. Well, while she was talking about the course with her colleagues, in came Karen. Karen has a reputation of being a rude and insufferable person who likes to put people down. Everyone at the pharmacy hates her colleagues, the nurses, the pharmacist, their supervisor. But since it's public service, unless she actually hits someone or steals something, she can't be fired. And because no one in the system likes her, she also can't be transferred. Also, she currently seems to have it out for my mother. My mother, being the let's not judge someone by one bad day type of person, tells Karen that she's doing the course, and Karen, who couldn't care less about it before, suddenly decides she wants to do it. By then, it was only 1 week before the first course was supposed to happen, and obviously there was no space left in the class, so they put her on the wait list. Karen was pissed, of course, and went to complain to anyone who'd listen, saying that it was such an important course and all. My mother even tried to calm her down, telling her that eventually there would be more classes since they have them every year. But of course, Karen couldn't take it that my mother would do the course and have the certificate before her. So on the 12th, as my mother was happily discussing her preparations to attend the class, Karen informed her that she would not be able to go anymore because Karen had decided to miss work on the 14th and take care of her windows, which needed to be changed. And conveniently, the workers decided to do it on the 14th. Since my mom could only go to the course if there was someone else in the pharmacy, that meant she couldn't go anymore. She even talked to her supervisor, who said they really could do nothing because Karen was taking personal leave. So despite being bummed out, she canceled her spot in the class. After all, she'd already done the other first aid classes, just never one with a certificate. Then when she arrived back at work on the 16th, she overheard Karen commenting how the course was interesting and it was just a pity they didn't give out a manual. When Karen saw my mother, she shut up and quickly left. That day, all of her coworkers were telling my mom that apparently Karen had gotten a spot at the last minute for the class on the 14th and was now bragging about it to everyone except my mom. Everyone knew it had been planned. My mother was genuinely pissed, so much so that she decided to stop being nice to Karen from now on. Well, this whole situation eventually got to the supervisor, who, fed up with Karen's antics, gave her an earful. Sadly, that was all that could be done. Still, this last week, Karen was acting weirdly nice to everyone, even smiling and saying good morning to the nurses she always talked bad about, just like my mother does, curiously. The only victims of her antics were the boxes of supplies and a few derogatory comments here and there. Then on the 17th, Karen suddenly texted my mother on her personal number with a link for the course on the 21st, saying they were having a second class that day. When my mother responded that she should try and get into this class if she wanted the certificate so badly, Karen had the audacity to reply with, "I guess I'll see it." Yes, she will not admit that she already did the course to my mother, even though everyone's already aware of it. This woman managed to make my mother, who's the sweetest to everyone, go on the I want to ruin this woman's whole career path. For now, though, she can only annoy her in petty ways like refusing to come back early so Karen can get her break earlier, or changing the names of the archive so Karen has a meltdown because she can't find them. But who knows, maybe one day Karen will actually kick someone else instead of the boxes and they'll finally fire her. I hope your mom learned not to share what she's doing with anyone at work until the course or whatever's over. I'm glad she's also doing things to mess with Karen. And our last story. When being lazy gets expensive. I used to do part-time volunteer work at a local park. It was mostly easy stuff, picking up trash, calling in suspicious activity, and helping keep the place presentable. The park was pretty large, and tucked behind a wall of trees was a jungle gym and small back parking lot. One cold, muddy day, I noticed deep tire tracks across the grass near the back exit. It wasn't a random cut-through. There's a clearly paved path that curves gently to the front of the park. No one had any reason to plow through the grass unless they were careless or lazy. I reported it to my supervisor, who told me we'd repair it when the weather warmed up later in the week. A couple days later, I was on patrol near the front when a silver minivan rolled up from the back lot and drove right over the same patch of grass. I was stunned. You have to be blind not to see the paved path. I jogged over, waving at the driver to stop. A woman wearing oversized sunglasses rolled down her window. 2 kids in the back seat barely glanced up from their tablets. "Can I help you?" she asked, bored. "I work with the park. You just drove through the grass. It's muddy and we're trying to restore it. Could you please use the path next time?" She just shrugged. "It's grass. It'll grow back." I blinked. "Right, but we're trying to maintain it. I'm not writing you up or anything, just asking for a little cooperation." She rolled her eyes behind those massive sunglasses. "Whatever," she muttered, and drove off. We fixed the grass a few days later, leveled the soil, added seed, and marked the edge clearly. It looked great. I came back later that afternoon and saw her minivan again. There she was on a bench, glued to her phone while her kids played. I hoped she'd use the actual path this time. I watched her gather her kids and start heading toward the van. I sprinted toward the front and stood in a visible spot near the exit path. I even put on my sunglasses to make her hesitate, like people do when they see a cop on the road. Sure enough, she started driving and then veered straight onto the grass again. I stepped into her path and she screeched to a stop, glaring. "You just ran over the grass again. We fixed it this morning." "So," she snapped, "maybe don't put grass where people drive." There's a perfectly visible path, and no one else has this issue. It's not hidden. She scoffed, threw up her hands, and peeled off, nearly clipping my foot. I was done being polite. I called my supervisor again. He didn't sound surprised, just frustrated, and said he had an idea. We met Friday morning, and in the back of his truck was a giant boulder. I figured if she can't go around it, she'll have to stop, he said. It took a bit of effort, but we dug out a section of the grass and wedged the boulder firmly in place. Not the prettiest solution, but it was going to work. That afternoon, I was patrolling when I saw the minivan again. Same plates, same driver. I didn't intervene. I figured we'd done our part. I was wiping bird poop off a statue near the front when I heard the unmistakable sound of a crash. I ran to the front, and there it was, the minivan halfway mounted on the boulder. The front bumper was crunched, the left tire was off the ground, and the undercarriage was scraping the rock. The entitled mom stumbled out, red-faced and swearing. "You," she yelled, stomping toward me. "You put that rock there, didn't you?" "My supervisor did," I said calmly, "to keep people from driving on the grass." "You damaged my van." "You hit a boulder. That's on you. It's clearly visible." "I was texting my friend." "That explains it." She stormed back to her car and called the cops. I called my supervisor just in case. He arrived before the police and had a good laugh seeing her van jacked up on the rock. When the officers showed up, she went on a full tirade about how we maliciously placed the boulder to trap her. My supervisor explained the repeated damage to the grass and how she'd ignored multiple warnings. I chimed in, recounting both incidents, and pointed out the fresh tire tracks over the grass again. The officers took it all in, looked at the placement of the boulder, and ruled that we weren't liable. She'd ignored clearly visible boundaries and hit an obvious obstacle. Fuming, she loaded her kids back into the van and tried to reverse off the rock. The scraping was unbearable. When she finally got free, her bumper slammed onto the pavement and her exhaust pipe dragged behind her, sparking slightly. The cop stopped her and told her the vehicle was no longer road safe. She had to call a tow. As we walked away, my supervisor patted me on the shoulder. "Well," he said, "I think that solves our grass problem." It did. She never came back. I love how this didn't just end with a warning or a slap on the wrist. Nope, she got her van jacked up on a rock, her bumper shredded, and had to call a tow truck while her kids watched the entire thing. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.